if books could speak. Today, let's talk about the pyramid principle.
Teacher Pyramid, why is it that some people get straight to the point as soon as they open their mouths, while I keep beating around the bush and can't get to the main idea?
That's because they understand how to start with the conclusion first, and then provide the reasons. Both thinking and expression follow a pyramid structure.
What is a pyramid structure that sounds so sophisticated?
Actually, it's very simple. State the most important part first, then elaborate on the supporting points. Like a pyramid, the top is the core conclusion, while the base below consists of supporting evidence.
So, when reporting work or giving a speech, should I state the conclusion directly from the beginning instead of beating around the bush?
Exactly. Decision makers are usually most interested in the conclusion. They don't have the time to patiently listen to you ramble on. You must show your trump card immediately to capture their attention.
This is truly a painful lesson. Last time, I also failed to get to the point and ruined a project that had been prepared for 3 months. The heartfelt project of the whole team was rejected, and the leader even interrupted me on the spot to ask what I actually wanted to say.
Leaders' time is very valuable. What they need is a clear answer, not a lengthy process. You have to say, I propose option A, and then explain the reason.
But is this approach practical in real life? I see that leaders often prefer to hear reports in full, from beginning to end. If I jump straight to the conclusion, would it be considered impolite?
That's just a mistaken feeling. In fact, presenting the conclusion first is much more convincing, because human thinking always prioritizes understanding what before why. The higher the position, the more leaders prefer this approach.
Wait, are you saying that higher level leaders prefer this kind of presentation?
That's right. They have to make dozens of big and small decisions every day, so they don't have time to listen to you tell the whole story from start to finish.
That being said, I'm making another mistake, always trying to provide as much information as possible to the leaders, thinking that the more detailed it is, the more it proves my professionalism.
Information overload only blurs the focus. The human brain can only process a maximum of 5 to 9 pieces of information at the same time. Exceeding this threshold will create confusion.
So the leaders will think I lack expertise?
On the contrary, they will think that you lack coherent thinking, because true professionalism lies in the ability to distill the most essential information.
So, in the end, how should I organize the information? Should I just state the conclusion and skip the details?
It is necessary to group similar information together. Each group should not exceed 7 main points to form clear logical blocks.
Could you be a bit more specific? How do you group the information?
Do it the way you categorize applications on your mobile phone. For example, one group is financial data, one group is market feedback, and one group is risk analysis. Each group has its own internal priority order.
Oh my, so this is the reason why some people only say a few words and their ideas are accepted, while I prepare a proposal for several days and it gets rejected in just 3 minutes. It really is hurtful.
In workplace communication, storytelling will help create emotions, reasoning will increase persuasiveness, but starting with the conclusion is the most effective. The influence does not lie in whether the content is complete or not, but in the clarity of the structure and the persuasiveness.
I feel stuck in my work, but suddenly I see the light. So, can you tell me what the most persuasive communication structure is? Don't keep me in suspense.
3-part structure from top to bottom. First is the summary of the conclusion. Next are the specific arguments. Finally, there are supporting evidence.
Sounds a bit abstract, doesn't it? Is there a way to illustrate it?
Like an upside-down tree, the brain prefers clear pathways like this, from the main trunk to the smaller branches, with clear and logical hierarchies.
That sounds reasonable, but could you give me a specific example? For example, if I want to persuade the whole group to accept my plan, how should I say it?
Present it as follows. I propose choosing option A because it addresses the 3 main issues of high cost, low performance, and poor user experience.
Is it that simple? Do we need to add more details?
Sure, you can continue as follows. Specifically, this solution can help reduce costs by 30%, increase efficiency by 50%, and improve user satisfaction by 40%.
Got it. First state the conclusion, choosing option A, then add 3 clear reasons, concise and effective. What about during the interview? Last time I went for an interview, I started with a long-winded self-introduction that lasted 5 minutes. But the interviewer looked at me with a puzzled expression.
Still applies similarly. I'm very suitable for this position because I have three outstanding advantages: professional skills, teamwork ability, and problem solving capacity.
Do I need to provide an example?
Sure. Then immediately explain that. For example, at my previous company, I used my professional skills to solve what problems and how I collaborated with the team to complete the project.
I have a question. Our team leader really likes to listen in a storytelling manner. He always says, "Tell me from the beginning." In such a case, is the pyramid structure still appropriate?
That's right. For leaders who prefer storytelling, you can definitely apply the compact pyramid. First, use one sentence to summarize the conclusion, then tell the whole story, and finally emphasize the conclusion and the lesson learned.
Do you mean that the idea is to first state the core message that the story wants to convey, then tell the full story, and finally emphasize the lesson?
So in this case, what I want to emphasize is the correct and precise understanding. Thanks to that, even when telling a story, you still have a clear framework to rely on, avoiding getting lost in the details of the story.
Oh my God, I never thought about this before. So why do senior leaders often prefer such presentations, while lower level staff sometimes prefer to delve into more details?
Because the way of thinking varies depending on the job level. Senior leaders need to make decisions at a macro level, so they are accustomed to starting from the general conclusion. On the contrary, frontline managers are often responsible for practical implementation, so they need to focus on the details in the process.
So it can be said that the way a person expresses themselves actually reflects their level of thinking and position in the workplace.
It really is true. Ambiguous expression often reflects chaotic thinking, while presenting in a pyramid structure shows mature thinking ability and respect for others' time.
This is indeed an unwritten rule in the workplace.
That's right. Many people face obstacles in their advancement simply because their way of expressing themselves inadvertently reveals limitations in their personal thinking.
The approach to the issue at my workplace has just become clear. But what if the initial opinion I presented was opposed by the leadership? How to use this method to persuade the other party?
First, find a point of consensus to serve as the foundation for the highest conclusion. Then, gradually guide them from a viewpoint they can accept to logically lead to your desired opinion step by step.
Sounds a bit complicated, doesn't it? Could you provide a clearer example? I really want to learn this method.
For example, both of us want to increase revenue. The data shows that the new market has great potential. Therefore, I propose to increase investment in this market.
Is this what you call an inverted pyramid?
That's right. Start from the common ground, then lead to the differences. It's important to follow the correct order. Don't rush into the opposition right away.
Can you be more specific? How can we implement such logical reasoning?
You can implement it in 3 steps. Find common interests for both parties. Use objective data to support. Guide each step skillfully. Each step must make the other party nod in agreement before moving on to the next point.
This trick is truly top-notch. Finally, I understand why some colleagues can easily persuade the boss to accept their ideas. So, when writing emails or making presentation slides, I should also apply that structure, right? It seems that this method is suitable for all forms of communication.
The beginning of the email should go straight to the conclusion. The first page of the slide should clearly state the topic without making the viewers guess.
This is indeed a direct approach, isn't it?
That's right. Getting straight to the point not only shows respect for others' time, but also demonstrates your capabilities. Especially in the workplace, starting with the main point is a sign of professionalism.
In the past, I often started emails with the line, "Hello, wishing you all the best." But now that I think about it, those words are no different from wasting the recipient's time. When making presentation slides, what should we pay attention to?
At the top of each page, there should be a conclusive title, avoiding vague titles like Project Progress. Instead, use specific titles such as Sales Increased by 30%.
So each slide needs a strong concluding statement as the title, right?
Exactly. The title must provide enough information for the viewer to grasp the content. If you combine all the titles of the pages together, The reader should understand the entire story.
I understand now. It's not surprising that the slides I made before often didn't leave a deep impression. The boss would look at them and forget them right away. But what if the information is too complex? How to organize the content logically? Because clearly issues in work are often very multifaceted.
Apply the MECE principle, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, which means non-overlapping and collectively exhaustive. This means that you need to break the problem down into separate parts while ensuring they can be reassembled to form the overall picture.
What is MECE? It sounds too complicated. Is there a simpler way? I'm afraid it might be difficult to apply in practice.
You can start by organizing the information in chronological, spatial, or order of importance. It is important to have clear organizational principles, avoiding random patchwork.
Is there any simpler and easier way?
Practice with the basics first, such as dividing the information into 4 parts: current situation, problem, solution, and action recommendation. This is the basic pyramid structure.
Truly surprising and impressive. It feels like this method is not just a skill to showcase, but almost an upgrade in thinking. Now I understand why I've always missed out on promotion opportunities.
That's right. The pyramid principle is essentially a method of logical thinking. Mastering it can restructure the way you think.
What does it change?
It not only changes the way of expression, but also the way of thinking and decision-making, helping you to start from the essence of the problem instead of being enchanted by the surface.
Honestly, I often dread communicating upwards, especially reporting to the higher-ups. It feels like my mind goes blank due to the stress. Last time, I completely forgot the content of the year-end report. It was really embarrassing due to the lack of structured thinking.
When preparing, write down the core conclusion and 3 to 5 supporting points to create a framework of thought. But writing it down and saying it out loud are 2 different things. With this framework, even if there is tension, it maintains focus, just like having a map. No matter how worried you are, you won't get lost.
But when encountering an on-site issue, the thought process can still become disordered. Is there a way to cope, especially when the leader suddenly interrupts me?
Prepare a 30-second and a 3-minute version for the presentation. No matter how many times you're interrupted, make sure the main points are fully conveyed. Just like a GPS recalibrating, always able to get back on track.
I often have trouble when the leader suddenly asks unprepared questions, causing me to panic and say a bunch of things that I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Use the pyramid principle to first provide the concluding answer, then add 2 to 3 reasons. Don't think and answer at the same time.
Do you have any tips?
You can start with the phrase, "in my opinion," and then organize your words. This sentence will give you a few seconds to organize your thoughts.
Oh, this is really useful. Can I prepare some answers in a pyramid structure in advance? So, when presenting the proposal, what should be said in the first 30 seconds to make it the most impactful?
Use 1 sentence to clarify the problem you want to solve, propose a solution, and the expected outcome.
Can you give a specific example?
For example, this solution can increase sales by 30% within 3 months through 3 key innovations: optimizing distribution channels, segmenting customers, and upgrading products. It feels like I've missed out on so many opportunities.
For many years, I have always used the wrong approach to communicate with my superiors, so it's no surprise that I have never been valued or utilized. So, how can I cultivate the right communication mindset?
You can practice by summarizing articles or main points from meetings, condensing the content into a focused sentence, and supporting it with 3 main points. This method forces oneself to find a consistent logical flow.
Are there any other daily training methods?
Watching the news and reading books can both help develop the skill of summarizing core content. Every day, take 5 minutes to summarize your daily tasks using the pyramid model. Over time, it will become a habit.
That sounds very true. In fact, many working people think their ideas are great, but they don't receive recognition from others. Why is that?
That's because they only focus on the correctness of their content, neglecting the structural aspect of the presentation. Correct does not mean persuasive. Therefore, the way you express yourself is more important than the content you convey. In the workplace, how you say something is often more important than what you say. A good idea poorly presented is no different from fine wine in a rusty bottle. Once poured out, it loses all its value.
I really get it now.
Therefore, when you grasp the pyramid principle, you also gain the ability for your voice to be heard and valued.
It's truly a secret weapon for the workplace.
Exactly. Logic is the most powerful persuasive factor, and structure is the most effective way of expression. This is the hidden code to elevate your career in the workplace.
Hearing you talk makes me feel like all our previous conversations were a waste.
Master the method, and your voice will truly be heard. No matter how sharp your thinking is, if you can't convey it, it's as good as nothing.
I feel like all my thoughts suddenly became clear. So, can the essence of the pyramid principle be summarized in one sentence?
A memorable phrase, focusing on the core. That is, important first, secondary later. Conclusion first, reasons later. Framework first, details later. Think from a high level, express with structure. This is the principle that helps your thinking become powerful.
Truly enlightening. Finally, I understand why the same content presented differently can have such varying levels of impact. This has truly reshaped my entire perception of communication in the workplace. The structure of expression determines the power of thought. Those who think in a pyramid way will stand at a higher position, see further, and speak more clearly.
From today, turn every word you say into a bullseye, so your ideas truly get noticed.
This is definitely the most valuable advice I've ever heard about the work environment.
Understanding this feels like shortening 10 years of being lost. When you master the pyramid principle, your thinking will be recognized for its true value, and your personal worth will be duly acknowledged. That is the key to changing your destiny in work.